My name's Chris.
And John goes home because I got a spoiler. And I saw that before I watched the episode. So if I get a spoiler, you get a spoiler. So...
And you're also Kristie. And this is the Washing Up Podcast.
He wasn't expecting me to do that.
No.
I think I'm in trouble now.
And it's pastry week.
Spoiler.
So, you know, as
There'll be butter.
well, some butter.
Dough.
Some butter, but also some ghee. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Ghee, baby. Just, I like that song.
Girls' Generation, one of the 15 million of them will sue. Like
No.
there's 9 million members of Girls' Generation.
Why?
One of them will have a lawsuit.
Like Bruno, they're a big fan of butter, but they prefer ghee. And they sing about it. Just saying. One of their handlers will sue us, though.
Oh, what I am actually happy with is the crossover of our audience is such.
Yeah.
They will know who Girls' Generation are. We won't have to explain that one.
Thank fuck.
So, anyway, it's Pastry Week.
It is.
Week 6, Pastry Week. It's the quarterfinal, as they call it, because you've got to remember, we always have to remember that there's less bakers in Canadian, so there's less episodes. Always have to remember there's only 8, not 10. So, Pastry Weeks are always an interesting one, insofar as they are very technique-based, obviously. Mm-hmm. If you're a podcast that likes joking around about baking, there's not a hell of a lot to write home about usually when it comes to a pastry week. It's a bit like a bread week.
Yeah, I mean, tonight, I've got some questions about, the consistency of the description of a rose
Yes.
in the pavilion. Are we, you can't call a rose by any other name, sure. But is it a labia or is it a rose? Like, is it a vulva?
Yeah, is it a vulva or is it a
Or is it
rose?
rose?
I mean,
Like-
these are the burning questions.
Yeah. Which week am I to know that you want a vulva rose and just like a floral rose? Like,
There's a big difference. Although, if you actually looked at Lauren's pistachio baklava at the end there, they were kind of
vulva-ish.
vulva-ish. So, they were in the vulva zone. Down.
dangers of vulva zone.
Highway to the vulva zone. Anyway, no, we're way off course already. The ship is drifting.
That's what you call my legs.
The ship is drifting into the rocks, folks. So let's.
I just want to say hello to my mother-in-law who's probably listening to this. And to my fellow burlesque.
And to all your fellow burlesques.
Who'll listen to this and go, oh, that's a good one, Kristie. Use that in class next week.
That'll come up.
Yeah.
So, look, we're going to start with the pre-credit sort of joke, and well, they've been sort of okay this series. And again, it was an okay sort of joke, but what I really enjoyed was they talked about bag champagne and looked at it, goon. So again, Australia, cask wine.
Cask wine is
a very
one
Australian...
of our claim to fames,
And
no one else wants to claim that fame, so here we are with our little silver bags that, as a teenager, made very handy pillows.
Now it's
after
only
a very
it's
interesting
long
night.
So it's only goon champagne, of course, if it's from the Bogan French region. Otherwise, it's just goon box and goon bag. So it's.
Did you ever play goon-based games?
No.
Like,
I was not big on... I'm a wine snob.
see, because I was in the inner city, all these kind of like suburban goon-based games, the one where they stand around a clothesline, and we're talking a Hills hoist, which... We invented that too.
We invented it and sent it around the world.
Okay.
Yes.
So you
The rotary clothesline.
The rotary clothesline. You peg the goon bag on one of the points of the rotary clothesline, and people stand around it in a circle, and then you
throw
you push it. Whoever it lands on has to drink. Well, growing up in the inner city, most people lived in terrace houses. You couldn't do that. So it was literally just a musical goon.
Look, a lot of...
I was on Romper Rooms, so I was a deft hand at that one.
Look, I had a couple of nights where I went out with friends, and we'd go out, and they'd all go, "Oh, I need to get a goon," and they'd go out and get their different goon options, their different bags. And goon is just it's cask wine. It used to be cheap cask wine, but now they've actually upped the class of goon bags.
Yeah, because Australia went through a wine glut.
But also we went through a problem, and one of the things that we sort of worked on that with is, of course, there's a shortage of cork.
There is a cork shortage.
There is. So that's why screw caps and, again, goon bags became also something. They went, well, why not? But we go there and all my friends are going, they get their goon bags off the shelf and stuff like that, and that's what they'd buy, and I'd be the person going over and buying the more expensive bottle of wine because I'm like, I'm not lowering myself.
Yeah, well, you obviously went and bought it when you were legal.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're drinking goon after you can legally buy alcohol, you've probably done it wrong.
Whereas it's usually, throwing whatever, like pooling your money together, throwing it at whoever looks the oldest or whoever's got the boyfriend that's over 18.
Goon bag, lemon, rusky, Bacardi Breezer.
Ours was Sub-Zeros. Now,
oh, yes, right. Well, yeah, that was... And this is Sub-Zero generation, yes.
Yes, and this is before they were flavoured, so we used to get Sub-Zeros and a bottle of red cordial to add to them.
So all of these things we're talking about, these Sub-Zeros and lemon ruskies and things like that,
they would have stollies, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they'd have stolly, but yeah, they don't have the lemon stolly. So basically, it presents itself as vodka. It's not really. It's a sort of flavoured...
They're your lolly drinks,
It's a tempered flavour. It's a
candy...
It's a sort of drink. It's a sort of vodka-y flavoured wine, really. And if you look at the alcohol proofing, everyone goes, "Oh, I'm getting smashed off these." The alcohol, it's really small. Yeah. It's really small. If you were going to get drunk off that, you either have to be very lightweight or you've drunk a case. Yes. Either or at that point. So,
so let us stop being stereotypes because I'm not drinking at the moment.
No.
Much to the enjoyment of the people that I went to at the palliative care conference last week who were kind of like, "Oh, you're not drinking. Okay." And they kept, like, to go and get a soft drink, you had to go and line up. Whereas, like, they walk past with, like, champers and wine and...
Goon bags.
Sub-Zeros. Little silver platter. Oh, no. West Coast coolers.
West Coast cooler. Look, just look up all of this stuff, Canadians. Yeah. We're way off topic for you. So let's get inside the pavilion.
The West Coast cooler add up on the Facebook page.
God, I'll dig it up. It's a great look. Go on YouTube and look up West Coast cooler commercial 1980s Australia. It's hilarious. Cool. Yeah. So anyway, the signature. So we have the Hungarian chimney cake.
Yes.
Or chocolate. So there's a food truck near us that used to do them all the time, Gubbles.
Yes. Yeah,
so I'll actually link them on Instagram. They're really cool. It's actually a Romanian wedding pastry, by the way.
Is it?
That's traditionally served at weddings.
Oh, is this like the pavlova, like the Hungarian Romanians, like, we invented it. No, we invented it. Well, we're calling it a chimney cake. Yes, well, it's our wedding cake.
No, I remember. The whole empire is sort of Romanian, Hungarian.
Oh, that's one of... Oh, yeah. We're talking about Europe where borders are arbitrary.
Borders don't matter. So 2 hours, and they had 2 hours to make 8 of them. One of the interesting things I found...
Imagine living in those towns, though, where, like, you have to have, like, all your flags stashed away.
And, where are we this week?
Much like when you go to put your bins out in Australia, you don't know if it's recycling or green bin week. And you're looking at your neighbours to see
which empire are we this week? Like, it's the Franco-Prussians, everybody. All right. What are we? Oh, we're Holy Roman Empire this week. Okay, get the Holy Roman stuff out, everybody. Very proud to be Holy Roman. No, oh, wait, no. Frederick Barbaros is going. No, okay, Barbaros has come through. Shit.
And you walk out, you're like, oh shit. Number 18's got a Franco-Roman, and number
20's
got their fucking goddamn Holy Roman. What am I going to do?
We can't even check on the council website. Anyway, so.
I think we found a history sketch that needs to be done.
We have.
Some borderland Austrian-German town, like...
So anyway...
Back at the ranch.
You have to start with the dough and go from there, which is usually what you have to do when the only component really is the dough. So
Do you think what we'd call US bake-offs place the ranch?
Oh, probably. Although, look, I did learn something on the weekend... I did learn that friends of mine have been trying to tell me that Kiwi Bake Off got better from the shit show that it was. And I did a bit of digging, and part of the reason for that might have been that they basically scrapped everybody and started again. Including getting rid of the cabana. And they moved to a thing they referred to...
That was the best thing!
It was. Well, the mammoths.
Maybe that's why they had to get rid of the cabana.
But they moved to a place called The Barn.
Ooh.
So Kiwi's now in The Barn.
So they are at the ranch.
Yeah, they are at the ranch. So I'm still disappointed they didn't go to Hobbiton. Anyway.
So are we going to give this another go?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Maybe this is an
off-season project.
An off-season project, yeah.
We do have an off-season.
What do we have going through the Bush Week at Christmas time, you know?
There we go. We might do a Kiwi deep dive for you.
Why is it called Bush Week?
Anyway.
Do we go bush?
Anyway, John.
Is it because you don't Brazilian wax?
Look, to be blunt, the reason why we're
closed.
stretching all this out at the moment is this challenge went for 8 minutes.
There's not really a lot.
Right? My notes for the signature usually take anywhere from a page and a half to up to 2 pages. I did this in less than half a page. Right?
And my brain...
I paused it when we sort of finished watching it. I paused it. I brought it up on the screen and said to Kristie, look at the time. It can't have been any more with introductions, opening credits, everything else. It can't have been a longer challenge than 8 minutes.
It was the quickie. It was the morning. They had places to be, and my brain just went bad dragon a couple of times.
We'll talk about that.
Please don't Google that. On your work computer.
I suspect that a lot of people already know.
Yes.
So John went with a lemon meringue. Now the other thing is too, the chimney cakes are not normally filled. They're hollowed, and it's just the cinnamon sugar or whatever.
Yeah, because if you've got a full chimney, you have to get a chimney sweep in.
The challenge only went 8 minutes.
I mean, I'd like to be a pastry chimney sweep.
That's a great job.
How
do you get the job of a pastry chimney sweep?
Oh no, I'll have to eat all that delicious curd.
Polish a pastry, governor.
Let me take care of that terrible lemon curd infestation you got there, my lady.
Step in time.
Mary Poppins, eat some curd.
So we're trying to make this go long, guys. Look, they're normally hollow, and then
it's all right. It wasn't rats or mice. It was moose. Get it?
So they're normally just spun in cinnamon sugar or flavoured sugar of some description, and they're hollow, and that's what the challenge was. So they said to them, make them. So look, the good news is...
I'd have filled it with fairy floss.
You literally... Well, that's a good idea. I actually would have liked
cotton candy.
Oh, would have been good.
You could use it as a cotton candy stick.
That could be great. Look, the thing I liked about this was once they announced that you could fill them with something, at that point in time... the traditional nature of the challenge went out the window and you could do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. And once they acknowledged that's what they were doing, fine, fantastic. So lemon meringue with John, mascarpone and candied lemon slices. Now, the reason he did lemon meringue was he said that was the first thing he learned to bake was lemon meringue pie. So that was sort of something that was a bit more meaningful for him.
That's fancy.
It very much was.
I like to make pancakes on the top of a Milo tin.
You could possibly then have done one of these with pancakes inside it.
Ooh, stuffed carbs.
What's the problem? I see no problem.
As a person who appreciates some different textures complementing each other, that's a bit of a mouthful.
As a person who has made a spaghetti pie,
as a woman who's and you've made a prosciutto lasagna.
I did make a prosciutto lasagna.
Do not make that.
Look. One of them worked beautifully. The spaghetti pie, by the way, did have spaghetti inside it too. It had the mince, it had the bolognese sauce, and it had the pasta, carb on carb. Was fantastic. That one worked. The prosciutto lasagna, way too salty. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't recommend it.
Find a less saltier slice. Maybe some mortadella.
It was for an event called Meatapalooza, where we tried to outdo ourselves with the different meats that we used.
I took a salad. A meat salad?
You made a meat salad. That was good. I tried to make a lasagna, but instead of lasagna sheets, prosciutto in the middle. Too salty. Far too salty.
Don't do that.
Should have learnt that. Should have worked that out. Also, it shrunk. So the whole thing was just like prosciutto bits inside of a basically a lasagna base.
So what about these funnel cakes? Hungarian chimney cakes.
So it's a yeasted dough too. So they had to prove them. So, prove them. Sorry. What did we say they were instead?
They were... Oh, fuck me.
The yeast is fucking...
Oh, that's right. They were...
the Yorgie draw.
The Yorgie draw. They were Yorgie drawed.
So, we got a return of the Yorgie draw.
Yeah.
Which was probably the highlight of the challenge, in all honesty.
I feel like that's the second in this series, but then you don't see any others till you see Yorgie draw 35. We've gone very blue very quickly today.
It has gone very blue very quickly, and it's not going to get better.
Prepare for indigo, people.
Oh, wow.
Get your plates ready.
They won't get that. Don't care. So Lauren was going with strawberry rhubarb chimney cakes with a creme diplomat, and she decided they were going to look like roses. So she was going to do dough on top to make them look like roses, and again, the rhubarb, the strawberry, the rolling them in the sort of coloured, so his whole thing was sort of pink.
And look, there was a moment with how Bruno was holding them and two particular fingers with the filling on them. that it did resemble the kind of rose that I've come to expect in this tent. But I don't think that's what she was aiming for.
He was at the time also complaining that it was a bit under. So anyway, so Kristie then announced very loudly that she was working on the spices for her meat. At which point I went...
You went, Kristie,
what?
I'm cooking dinner. Sit down. Sorry.
So Kristie announces that she's working on the spices for her meat. And my interest was piqued because at this point in time, as I've mentioned a few times, I am a savoury over sweet baker.
Yes, you are.
And Kristie has followed this route a few times. And this time she went with the idea of that Japanese hot dog that you see.
Yes, which is very cool.
I was here for it.
Like, it also resembled... Like, let's just say this whole bake had a lot of potential.
For innuendos?
For innuendos. And
they resisted.
I think, is that... Now we know that we got it down to 8 minutes.
Of innuendos?
They had to fucking cut so much. There was so much that the editor, the censors have just gone, we can't use that. We cannot show Anne and Alan talking about the hot dog into the chimney.
Talking about hot dogging. It was right there. It was right there. It was right there. This is the bluest episode in history. Anyway.
Or the creamed horns.
And look, it wasn't until the technical they were worried about gushy messes on the floor. So
I mean, we did get John's tip, but unfortunately, the base was a bit squodgy. Is that the word they used? I assume so.
So Kristie was using nori and then fried onions and then Japanese mayo and then the pork sausage that she was making too. Those pork sausages, by the way, I will take those. They look really good.
You're here for a good sausage.
I'm here. So at this point, they cut the cheese. Now, what I really appreciated about this is a Vietnamese coffee mousse, ladyfingers, soaked in booze, and cocoa pastry. Now, she's my hero because two of my favourite sorts of coffee in the world... Yes, two of my favourite things in the world are sort of that Lebanese, that Middle Eastern style coffee, which is really strong, and Vietnamese coffee. Now, sometimes it's done with condensed milk. Sometimes
she could be heroes.
Sometimes it's done just with the filter.
Making Vietnamese coffee.
But what I really liked was that she made Vietnamese coffee and was able to use the proper fin filter. So there's a specific technique so you've got to use. So it's got the fin filters and you've got to drip the coffee through, and they kept it traditional, which was really good.
Is that a French influence or is that a Middle Eastern influence?
I think it's more of the French background influence, but it's very much a traditional sort of Vietnamese. So I'm pleased they didn't decide to shortcut that and go, look, Cuisinart, have one of these. I mean, I like the idea that you could just sort of go with that traditional practice. So I thought that was really cool. Nice. And again, I love Vietnamese coffee. So I was tiramisu and I'm like, yeah, Vietnamese coffee, yeah. And later on, Kyla goes, feels like we should always use Vietnamese coffee for tiramisu. And she's like, yeah.
The Italians are like, bring them in. Bring our new Vietnamese comrades in. Because they now speak Russian.
But no, they did a really good job in that idea of the traditional Vietnamese coffee.
And you know what they should substitute the Madeira for? Goon.
Goon?
Really make it international.
So much goon. Now Zoya. Now, Zoya went with the ice cream cone idea with sugar and cinnamon cone, and then a cheesecake filling, but a cheesecake filling with some of the aspects of a fruitcake. We'll come to that. And then brandy whipped cream on top. So, at this point, they put the chimney cakes into the oven, and it got quite suggestive.
This is when my mind just kind of went, look, I know I could go unicorn horns, but I've been perusing a few of these, but these are the smaller versions.
They were, yeah.
Don't buy from that website, by the way.
Anyway, so the mixture...
Very turfy.
What I also really enjoyed was while they were waiting for the chimneys to cook, I really appreciated the mixture... the mixture and the range of things that were happening. So Lauren, of course, is doing the extra pastry bits for the rose topping. She's doing very bakery things. Zoya is making marzipan cherries, again, very bakery things. John is candying lemons, again, very bakery things. Chi is making lady fingers, and also Vietnamese coffee, but that's still very bakery things.
Yeah.
Kristie is frying sausages and then putting onions into a very, very, very boiling pot of oil that immediately bubbles over.
and taking my husband's heart.
Yes,
at the same time.
as she did. Yeah. So that was kind of the challenge. They got them out, they filled them up, they put them on the racks. That was kind of it. They cut to Zoya, who had a very pained expression on her face. Don't know why. The judging.
Yeah.
So Zoya.
The judging.
They said it looked like a carnival treat. Good structure, good bounce back. Well baked in general, but needed more filling and less dough. Because as they said, when they cut down, it was very dense in the middle. And they said by the time it got to the end, there was probably no filling there at all.
But if it was a carnival treat, I really hope that one was left over at least. So that some of Kristie's little riding people in her showstopper got a little carnival treat to go with it. You know, just having a little...
That could have been fun.
Little Zoya chimney treat.
That would have been lovely for them.
To eat.
Now this is where the challenge finally took off.
On the big swing. I'm sorry. The carousel.
Now this is where the challenge finally took off. In the judging. Because Bruno says, great fruitcake flavours without the boredom of a fruitcake. And if Kyla could have killed with a look, they would have needed a new judge for the last few weeks.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, as we are entering the fruitcake season,
it is fruitcake season.
Fruitcake season. You know, the pumpkin spice has been stashed away. Although, does that last till Thanksgiving for the Yanks?
Oh, pumpkin spice is so sugary it lasts all year round to go for it.
Okay. Well, technically, in Australia, you just pop your pumpkin spice in your Christmas pudding. Anyway, we are entering fruitcake season now. Thankfully, Miscellaneous City has become a little bit more international, and panettone is something Thanksgiving, which is great. Sliced up and toasted. Beautiful. My father and quite a number of other people in this world are still obsessed with giving and receiving fruitcake. It is one of those things that I hope die out with a specific generation, because why?
So here's the thing.
Why Delilah?
So here's the thing.
Who I assume invented the fruitcake.
If you're in the Northern Hemisphere...
Chopping off Samson's hair and going to bake a boring cake.
If you're
really piss off God.
If you're in the Northern Hemisphere... I got that through that time. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere... fruitcake makes sense. It's dense, it's heavy, there's usually booze in it.
It's cold where you are.
And that's the point. It's freezing. That's why it makes sense.
Yeah.
Here on a Christmas day that is on average 40 to 45 degrees Celsius.
Yep.
You want no part of that. You want a pav.
Fuck me, you do. Yep.
You want a pav. You want something light. You want something airy. You want something with fruit on it. You don't want something that's going to lodge in your stomach for a good 3 days.
And means that when you jump in the pool, you're sinking.
Yep.
You know? Or send you into a coma before you even hit the lounge after lunch.
And also, to be blunt, Bruno's right. Fruitcake's boring.
Just picture, if you will, you're sitting around. What on Canada Day? Is that near? That's in summer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Canada Day, 4th of July. Fucking, what do the British do? I don't know. Probably yay.
Colonise everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, yay, colonising the world day.
Every other day is British Day.
Yeah. You're sitting there in that nice heat, watching fireworks go off, and someone goes, "Hey, want some fruitcake?" How do you respond to that? And that's our life, you know? Or the fucking, family member that insists on cooking a full fucking roast pork without putting the aircon on. And we've all had that family member.
Thank you, by the way, for specifying we're putting the aircon on, because hi, Mum.
My uncle / stepfather was also that dude. We went to fucking Queensland where he and Mum were living, and he insisted we're going to do a full fucking Christmas dinner, and can't have the aircon inside because we're all outside in the pool. But even at midday when we wanted to come inside and have lunch, and the fucking goddamn pork is still cooking. And seriously, if you needed to cook other things, you could have just left them on the bench.
So anyway, Bruno's the man.
And if you needed to salt them, you could have just taken the sweat off my stepfather's forehead.
So Bruno's the man for this view, because we're with him. They said that they could be in a bakery.
Have we ranted enough about hot, like Northern Hemisphere traditions in Australia?
Yes.
Okay.
The right thickness of their dough, crispy in the right places, they said that the coffee flavour was absolutely
Are
thin.
you sure we've finished ranting? Or are you trying to deflect because you are currently putting up Christmas lights, which do include snowflakes. Now, I know they're rainbow snowflakes, and we've got reindeer now, and it's a rainbow reindeer, and that's okay. But is that what you're trying to avoid me mentioning on the podcast?
No, I'm trying to get to the technical.
Have we padded out the first one enough?
Well and truly.
Okay, cool. Moving right along.
They said that she had a really good coffee flavour. It was a bit too boozy for Bruno, which I don't believe for a second. And they did say that they felt like the Vietnamese coffee then was the right coffee for a tiramisu in the future. Lawrence, they said that she was a great storyteller, clever design with the rhubarb. The dough, however, was a bit too thick, and they said the inner layer was slightly raw. John, they said, was clean and precise. Looked great at the tip, but was very weak as it sort of moved down, and they said it was very undercooked. They said the curd was tart and clean, though, so the lemon curd was really nice. And Kristie, they said it was striking. They said that basically it was a striking sort of street food dish at its best. Very beautifully baked. The flavours balanced really well. It was sweet, it was spicy, and it was peppery.
Woof!
All in one. So,
good sausage, Kristie.
Now, remember all of those reviews, because when we get to the judging at the end, there's a conversation to be had. Then we get to the signature.
No, technical.
Sorry, technical, my bad.
That's right. We could be anywhere at this present time.
Then we get to the technical. So, the technical, before we did that, Bruno said, be sure to lay a firm foundation. Now, what he meant by that was talking about the idea of...
restumping the pavilion.
That was one option, but a sublé crust is what he was talking about.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So, mango rose tart, short crust pastry, mango curd, creme diplomat, then mango caviar and arranged mango on top to make it a flower.
Now, for all my Office fans out there, the bakers had to make a mango sablé. Like, yeah.
Hey. Bakers had to make a mango sablé. Now, Kristie is learning.
I am.
She is learning.
Oh, yep.
Because...
Cheese learning?
No, Kristie is learning.
Yeah, but you just then said she's learning.
She is learning.
Okay.
No, I won't say I'm excited, because you'll use that later when it goes badly, and I go, oh, she was excited for the technical. So finally, I like it when they start to learn.
Holding back those comments.
Now, it's a variation on the traditional tarte pomme, the French dish. Now, the sablé crust is the critical part of it, because you've got to have... It's got to be robust, and then it has to...
Light and delicate.
It has to cool.
As our dear friend John said.
Yes.
With his overhead pastry shot of it all broken.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
It was so delicate.
Yes, so it has to cool, and then once it cools, you put your mango curd in, and then once that cools a little bit more, then you put your creme diplomat in, and then you've got to put your... So you've got to really cool it twice to get it to the right temp. Everything's got to cool at different temperatures.
This whole technical is a fucking exercise in time management. And if you've got ADHD or any kind of executive function problem, I mean, one, you would not make it to the shed unless you're like hyper obsessive about baking. But two, fucking hell.
Also, what I found was bizarre in this one. First of all, they had to hand cut the mango strips.
Yeah.
Now, what that suggests is that the sponsors don't make a mango slicer. Now, further to that, and further to this from last week, I was corrected by somebody in Canada who reminded me that it's actually cousinat.
Bless you.
Cousinat.
Cousinat?
Yeah, it's not cuisine art, it's cousinat.
Like, it's my cousin, bro.
My cousin, bro.
Oh, it's New Zealand bread.
Maybe Bruno's presenting. Maybe Bruno's saying it. It's cousinat.
No, because it's got cousinat. Like, it's like,
it's
bro.
a cuz. Like cuz, no, bro. I'm beach des, bro.
He's beach des.
He's
baked des.
I'm baked des, bro.
I'm sure some of them are.
So,
now,
Bruno also said, I hope they're ready to whisk, followed by a hand action that looked a lot more at home in charades, telling people the film was coming up.
Well, maybe.
Because he turns around to them and he goes, I hope they are ready to whisk. And he moved the hand sideways, like near his side of his head. Yeah, not like in a bowl down, like at the side of him. Like,
no, but if you watch the professional chefs, they are basically doing it horizontal.
Well, I get that.
They almost... They live on the edge.
I get that.
They're defying gravity.
I get that, but he basically put it next to his head.
Fluffing the cream.
I get that, but he basically put it next to his head, and I was waiting for Kyla to go, movie.
And then Anne and Alan are both kind of like, oh, we've got to them. They're going to be on our new theatre sports team.
Finally. Yes. So the instructions for the pastry crust were make sablé pastry crust.
Good.
I like that.
Because we're at the pointy end, and I can appreciate that.
You should know how to make a sablé when you go in there. That's one of the things you should know how to do. We've talked about the idea if it says make shoe, you should know how to make shoe.
If it says how to make socks, you should know how to make socks. Like if you're going to be on World's Best Cobbler, you should know how to make a shoe.
Don't give people show ideas.
It's going to come on Netflix. 100%. They're doing it all.
100%. Former producer, by the way, Marika's got her new show out too, which is it's that the Drink Masters thing.
Oh,
that's
hers.
Great. So
excellent.
Get all over that. I mean, I know. Hi CBC. Anyway, not yours. Don't care.
They should do. They should do podcast masters.
They really should. We'd be great.
We'll be the rope. We'll be the ring. We'll be the underdogs.
We'll be the Stadler and Waldorf at the top.
We do the podcast about the podcast show.
Of course we do. That's how we started. So they had to whisk the mango curd until smooth. And now this is where it got really interesting. So they came over and she was talking about the idea that they might get a bit upset and they might start crying. And they were like, because it was so painful and so stretched. So she turns around and says, you might need to get the Kleenex out. Now, keep going. Can I point out?
It started with bad dragons and now we need Kleenex.
Can I point out that in a show where they don't like using sponsors' names, she got Kleenex through. Now, all I can think of...
Do they not call them tissues?
No, well, they do, but she said, you get the Kleenex out, get a tissue out. So she said the word Kleenex. They let it through. What this means?
Yeah.
Lauren should have called her dog Kleenex.
Or it should all be like Kleenex hazelnut chocolate spread. What else can Kleenex make on there that needs to be,
Again, Lauren's dog is Oreo, and they did not use that name. And they went to great lengths to not use the name Oreo. Meanwhile, she says Kleenex, and they're like, yeah, sure. Are Unilever sponsoring? Anyway, so John then has the moment where he has the John voiceover with the John actions, and they don't quite match. So John's voiceover is with pastry, you always have to be delicate. John's actions are dropping broken pastry shards all over a tin.
So delicate.
And he's desperately trying to fight. He wasn't even trying to push them together. He was trying to jigsaw them.
You know what you needed there, John? You needed some gold leaf just to do.
You did need some gold leaf just to distract.
No. What's the Japanese art form where they
origami?
They repair broken things.
Oh yes,
kintsugi.
Yes, something like that. Something like that. I don't know. It was probably in British Bake Off Japanese Week. They treated
Kintsugi,
Japan. They treated Japan with respect in that week. Anyway.
Look, I feel like I'm treating Japan with as much respect as Bake Off Britain.
You really are.
Just following my colonising ancestors' footsteps.
So Lauren turns around and goes, I made a creme diplomat this morning. I know how it goes. Hopefully. And it was really interesting because John talked about the fact that, he'd made a curd this morning in the first bake. Lauren had made, obviously, in her one, the creme diplomat. Yes. So they'd sort of done some elements of this before, which was good. Now...
But do you get immunity?
No.
Even if you make a diplomat properly?
No, there's no diplomat immunity. But... We then got what I consider to be the most Instagram thing I've seen this season and the most useless component of a bake since the entire biscuit pinata concept in Australia.
Bloomin' Hestenthal.
So, Bloomin' Hestenthal.
Bloomin' Hestenthal decided to rock up to the pavilion for a moment.
Let's make some mango caviar, folks. Now... Yeah.
I would have made extra and then made some boba tea after it, just some little... I had a nice mango tea the other day with mango pearls in it. I wonder if some of them were flown from Canada.
It's one of the most useless things I've ever seen done in a challenge. It was not even a garnish, really, because it was mango on top and then mango droplets on top of the mango. So it's sort of half blended anyway.
But you know why? You saw those mangoes they had.
Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Now,
for a moment, like Chris is going, they're raw. I'm like, they're not fucking raw. It's probably like the type, like there's different kinds.
Unripe, yeah.
There's different kinds
well, they're definitely raw, they're mangoes, but they're unripe.
Sorry, unripened mangoes. And I'm like, no, it's probably like the species of mango it is.
No.
And then I saw them peeling. I'm like, that's a fucking unripe mango. Like that's...
There were green ones. There were white ones. Like, it takes a skill to have a mango that's white. When they put the bakes up at the end, some of them had the yellowish tinge of mango. Like, and one of them looked like... I was looking at it going, have they got the colour contrast wrong? That's very white.
Like, those mangoes look like could have been done well in, like, a Thai-style curry or something, like, because they were unripened.
They were definitely not dessert mangoes. They were not mangoes you would put anywhere where you had to just eat fresh mango. And again, look, we're lucky in Australia. I actually did a bit of digging.
Mango season.
I actually did a bit of digging, and in Canada, mangoes have to be imported.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not a natural climb.
Yeah.
So they get
too bad for you that your ancestors colonised the wrong continent.
So most of their mangoes come from India and Vietnam.
Okay.
That's where they get most of them from.
Mm-hmm.
It takes, obviously, time to get over there to ship them over there. It should probably, given the heat it should probably have been peak mango season. But peak mango season for Canada is vastly different to the fact that in Australia, you can't go to any road that's got more than 2 lanes without seeing a car put over to the side of the road and a guy with his boot open and a box of mangoes.
$10 box of mangoes.
$10 box of mangoes.
It's the best stone fruit season. And, like, down the road from us... Get yourself like 3 boxes.
Really, like, realistically, you can't go 2 foot in summer in Australia without bumping into somebody trying to sell you really good mangoes.
And by the end of summer, like, people are going, I just bought a box of mangoes. Anyone want some? And you're at work, you're like, I can't do another mango.
No,
mate.
we're done with mangoes.
Yeah.
Like December and early January is peak mango time.
Yeah.
And then you get to like the end of January, start of February, and everyone's like, I'm a bit over the mango now. But like,
and then you know, then Chinese New Year rolls around, and then you're like, mango pancakes, bitches, bring it on.
Yeah, and look, we had to obviously with the thing, we've got to remember that we are lucky to be in a place that has quality mangoes.
I've got a bone to pick.
Oh, yes.
Mahathi, where the fuck were you?
Yeah, the fruit pirate.
Fruit pirate princess? Come on, loves.
You get married and suddenly you're not supplying mangoes. Where's your father stealing, borrowing container ships full of fruit?
What's it called? Just being entrepreneurial.
Exactly.
Entrepreneuring on the waves, being one of those, what we used to call them? That was the polite term for
piracy.
Piracy. It was
a merchant capitalist.
Yes, he was a merchant, merchant capitalist.
So she was then worried about the blondness of the base that they were baking. But Lauren and John were worried about something a bit different. Lauren turned around and said, look, I need to make sure that this bakes properly, otherwise we'll have a gushy mess on the floor. Mm-hmm. To which John turned around and said, well, if I don't get this done properly, I'll be a gushy mess on the floor. And I found it really interesting that like there was no innuendo in that first challenge, but suddenly
because they had to edit it out because obviously it was so bad. And
Lauren lost it when John said that.
So much to the point that we've had Chi talking about stretching things and now John's a gushy mess on the floor, and apparently that's not enough to get censored. But whatever went down in round 1 was cut out. I'd like to see that, you know, in years to come. Like in Australia, right? There was this moment. What was it? That there was an adults clip thing, like an ad clip thing that the owner of Channel 9 went, that's too rude.
Australia's naughtiest home videos.
That's it.
Which was taken off air 10 minutes in, right at the point where you got to the conga line with the kangaroo with the erection.
Because the
owner of the network got on the phone, rang up his programming, and said, "Get this fucking piece of shit off my television set."
Now, if you watch it now, you're kind of like, that wouldn't even make a fucking.
Well, now it's a Minties commercial.
It's a Minties commercial, and it wouldn't even make a YouTube. Like it wouldn't be a TikTok. You know, no one would bother. No one would bother. It's like, whatever.
At this point, Kristie gave some very 1980s parenting advice to her tart. As she opened the fridge, looked at it, and said, "Harden up and do your best." Very 80s advice there. Mom, someone hit me at school. Harden up and do your best.
Mum, I'm stuck to the clothesline trying to undo the goon bag.
Just harden up and do your best. Take you good. What's this? It's a teaspoon. What's it got on it? Cement. Why? Harden up.
Get down to Bunnings, aisle 9. Canada, harden the fuck up.
So Lauren was then, they came over and had a look at Lauren's bench, and Lauren was really finely slicing her somewhat yellowish mangoes.
Look, it would make it easy to slice because you would literally be able to just kind of like go in and just like scrape.
And as Lauren said, if they're going to dock me on something, it won't be Chunky Mango. Chunky Mango should be a burlesque name, by the way.
Get out of my head.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to do a little burlesque digression. So one of the women I dance with is looking for her burlesque name, right? Now, I've gone through a few things, and then I got hooked on Australian biscuit names. So there's a Viennetta. Oh, no, that's an ice cream. So I've called it Viennetta. Then there's a Tim Tam, so I've said Tammy Tim. There's an iced Vovo, so I've suggested Isla Vovo. Then we realised it's about to go out of production. Delta Cream.
It's right there.
Yeah. Minty Slices after mint slices. Sally Sayo. That's even naughtier because there is a game called Soggy Sayo. Don't look that up on your work computer. And then there's Barbecue Shapes, which are a savoury biscuit. And then your favourite, Dixie Drumsticks.
Which is another savoury biscuit.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Chunky Mango.
And shout out to the Stone Cold Foxes.
Yeah. One of the dancers, my friend Tina, aka Chesty Coffin. No, Coffin Choke. Fuck, there's also Chesty Coffin. I get these two.
Coffin Choke. I knew that. Tina, I knew that.
I'm sorry, Tina. You know me. You can just call me Venus Adummed. So Coffin Choke. I'm supposed to fucking do it again. Coffin Choke is on Instagram, and she's doing a performance this Saturday night in Newcastle. So if you're in Newcastle, New South Wales, pop along.
So all you Canadians, get on a flight.
Yep. Get yourself to Newcastle, New South Wales. Don't bother coming to see us first.
No.
Get down there. Go straight there. See an awesome Freddy Krueger-based act.
Yep.
Because that's what you need in your life.
Everyone needs that in their life.
Yeah.
So we then placed mango slices, because why not? Cheese was sort of sinking a little bit because the curd hadn't set. None of it had set properly. Look, as I said, I thought that on one hand, I thought that the fiddly nature of doing that mango and then stopping to do the mango pearls. I'm not gonna refer to them as mango caviar. They're mango pearls. So doing the mango pearls and doing the sliced mango on top was absolutely redundant, except for the fact that it was about time management. So as a baking task, utterly useless. As a time management task as part of baking,
yeah, great.
Fantastic.
And look, this week I felt like I gave a pass to it. You know, we've had some really strong weeks where I've just been impressed.
We'll get to the Showstopper, and the Showstopper's great.
Oh, look, I'm here for baklava on fancy plates.
Aren't we all?
You know, I was expecting something akin to a profiterole tower, but then I realised even in 4 hours, like, you're not even building the base of that ziggurat.
You're not good crock and bush. Anyway, now at the end of the challenge too, Lauren looks around and goes, "Can I go into a coma for the next 20 years?" Kind of feels accurate. So the judging. Now, Zoya's, they said, good attempt at the rose, but the curd didn't set properly, so the mango was sinking. The sublay was baked well at the top, but the base was a bit under. They said the flavours were there, but the Zoya did not use her finishing time properly. They said good pearls on top. The mango slices were consistent. Unfortunately, the curd didn't set, but the pastry had a nice texture. And this is the interesting part about this bake. So 3 of them did not have curd that set. And it sort of made for a bit of a messy judgment of the technique, literally and figuratively. So Lauren, they said, great life skills. The crust was good. The filling was in the right places. Great texture on both layers. Good flavour. Probably the closest they had to a store-bought one. John, the tart shell was white, pale, and collapsing, which is me after a particularly rough week.
Or a hot summer's day.
Actually, it's definitely me after a hot summer's day. White, pale, and collapsing. The pattern on the top was very well done, but the curd wasn't set. And you know you're in trouble when they stop in the middle of the technical and go, that pattern on top's really nice.
And look, again, a little critique. Make up your fucking mind about what you want a rose to look like. Are we talking vulvas? Are we talking florals? The other worry I have with all that fucking raw mango Kyla and Bruno's stomachs, like that is not good.
No.
Like all that, I forget what it's called, but there's like some kind of acid or like enzyme or something that's in like unripened fruit. I keep saying raw fruit. I mean unripened fruit. Is not good for you. And like, you know, there was unset curd, and I just wonder if they made their own unset curd later.
They might have. So Kristie's had a consistent pattern. The shell was still translucent. The Diplomat was a success, but the curd was still running. So
much like Kyla and Bruno to the local bathroom.
So from bottom to top, it was John, Kristie, Chi, Zoya, and then Lauren, and it was Lauren by like light years.
Yeah.
There was no question over that. I found it interesting that the Zoya got the critique she got, Chi got the critique they got, and Kristie got the critique they got, and like basically with Kristie's and Chi's, I think the thing they split them on was you could see the pearls on top of cheese. Zoya's the sablé was a bit under, the curd didn't properly set, so the top sank. It was very much, John's was clearly at the bottom.
Yeah.
Then you had the three in the middle who were pretty interchangeable. And then you had Lauren who was like in another postcode. So then they go to the table and they're like, so who's doing what this week? Mm-hmm. And basically they just said Lauren's done really well in the technical. Chi and Kristie were light years ahead in the first challenge. Don't know what's going to happen in the Showstopper. I always worry when that happens judging-wise because it usually means that the first two challenges don't matter. And we're just going to go on the Showstopper. When it gets really messy with the judging in the first two, it tends to just be throw those two out. Whatever happens in the Showstopper is what we're going to judge.
But that's what you have to do unless there's someone clear and strong, and particularly getting down to a narrower pool. Something's going to
I agree.
have
Look,
to...
the Showstopper's always weighted more heavily. We all know that. Everyone who watches the show knows that.
But less so in Canadian. Like, that is a very clear thing in British. Basically, you should... Like, British should just go the way of Kiwi and just throw out the second challenge.
Well, Kiwi put it back.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that I get why you need to do it on the occasion.
I get it. As I said, I do get it, but I'm literally just pointing it out. So, the Showstopper.
Oh, yeah. You've got your pointer stick out. You've got your diagram.
So, the Showstopper.
He's done a full diorama, people, of...
The floor is beating. So baklava tower, you had two types you had to make, and you had 4 hours to make it. What they didn't mention at the start was how many. All they said was 2 types, 4 hours. It was only halfway through the challenge when John said, we only have to make 12 of each, right? That you actually learned they had to make 12 of each. Because all they said was a baklava tower, 2 types, 4 hours. They didn't bother to tell you how many. Because I'm going, could you make 2 pieces? Like, I've got 1 of each. I've got 4 hours to make 2 pieces of baklava. Sweet, what a challenge.
Look, my journey through the Showstopper was a bit of a roller coaster that ended in fun, I have to say. You know, I pulled up at the fun fair, you know, jumped on those baklava swings and ate some creamed chimneys from Zoya and her carnival snack chimneys. So I started off and I went, baklava tower. And like, I get in my head now, in Australia, you probably don't know this, but we have a huge population of people from Lebanon and the Middle East and stuff. And you can go into their sweet shops and there are literally mounds of different fucking baklavas and sweets.
So this is the point.
Yeah.
Is John turned around and went, nobody makes phyllo by hand. And I'm turning around and going, there are yayas and cities everywhere going, want to bet?
I've seen...
Want to bet? The yayas are all going, we make it by hand. The cities are all going, we make it by hand.
I've seen all those like little snippets of when they go over to like, where was it? I think it was Turkey. And there was a guy whose whole like job is just making phyllo, and watching it is just mesmerizing. You know, we can just see those people that, you know, are just highly skilled at their job.
But basically, if you're a grandmother from the Middle East, you're making phyllo.
Are you though? Okay, all right.
Really
we'll die. We'll die if we say anything different.
They really are.
Yeah.
Don't ever suggest that. Don't ever suggest that somebody's city is going into the freezer and pulling the phyllo out. Yeah, do not ever suggest that. The Lebanese family will rip you. They will rip you little
borgs. Yeah. So that was the first part. I'm like, oh, tower. Then I see that it's basically fancy plates in a tower shape, and I'm like, oh, there's not as much baklava. Like that just kind of crushed my soul a little bit. And I'm like, oh, but the towers are really pretty and they've all got themes. I'm like, yay! And then I saw that there's not much baklava still, and I'm like, oh. And then I start watching them make the phyllo, and I'm like, this is why we appreciate what's going on, because that was a lot of fucking effort. Jesus Christ on a broomstick.
I really enjoyed this.
Or on a baklava tower.
I really enjoyed this as the showstopper because it's the right kind of challenge. Because the challenge was to make the phyllo.
Yep.
And like John at one point starts off by saying nobody makes phyllo. Then later on goes, it's a really simple dough. And it's like, make up your mind, John. But what it is, it's process and time. And again, this whole thing was time management. And can you make the phyllo, get it to the right consistency? Can you then make the baklava? Can you cook the baklava in the right amount of time? Do you know when to take it out of the oven? Do you know when to put the syrup on it? So that, because again, if the syrup not cooked properly, the syrup will make them soggy. Can you do all of this?
And working with the flavors in it too. And what I loved about this is, so, you know, my familiarity is with all the traditional sweets, you know, like usually the pistachio and the rose water and the honey kind of flavors. And here we were getting bloody ube, you know, like I loved this. What we didn't get though was tomato and feta.
No, we didn't. So we'll
sorry,
we'll go with Chi and we'll come back.
Yeah.
So now Chi was making ube and coconut shells, which was cool.
Yep.
The second one was tomato and feta logs. Now, that's what it said in the voiceover. That's what it said on the diagram.
Yeah.
What Chi made were peanut and sesame logs. So somebody at CBC didn't pay attention because they've got to get the briefs in ahead of time. It wasn't like you can pull an audible and go, I'm just going to randomly make a complete change and not use anything.
Because I think if there was a complete change done on the day, it would
they'd have time in post to go back and change it.
Change it.
It's just something got missed.
Yeah. And look, I'm assuming it was just Mercury retrograde at the moment, and we all have those weeks.
Lauren was asked about making...
You know, your kid asks you, do you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Sure, and you give them feta and tomato instead.
It happens all the time.
Still with jelly, though.
Lauren was asked about making phyllo, and she goes, I made it one time before. Real not good.
Mum, why did you put peanut butter in my Greek salad? Oh, sorry, sweetie.
So then...
This is why I don't have children.
So then we went to Kristie. And Kristie made raspberry poppy seed and the chili lime baklava. I really like those chili lime ones.
That's a great idea.
And she was making... Now, it wasn't a carousel. It's a basket ride. She even called it a basket ride. Why did you write carousel? It's a basket ride.
Is that a thing, though?
Yes.
Is it like the big swing at one, like Australia's Wonderland? Yes. Oh, I always loved that. That was my go-to.
Yeah, but they were brilliant. Yeah. But it's not a carousel. Carousel's very specific.
I know, there's fucking horses and shit.
You know, it's only a carousel as from a carousel region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling horses. It's
not even a pipe organ.
Now, Chi was serving theirs inside a big number 6. Now, as they pointed out, that their daughter is 6.
Yep.
It's the 6th series. Bruno then points out it's the 6th episode, of course. 666, as we well know, the number of the Schlag.
Yes, and the Schlag arrived last week, a week early, but I feel like it was like retro invocation.
The Schlag's number had been called. It was just waiting.
It was.
Maybe the Schlag's responsible for the change in cheese bake.
Yeah, parallel dimensions.
Maybe the Schlag went in and changed the edit.
Yep.
Got to be the
It's like sliders, but with Schlag. Slider Schlag.
So then we got the rolling, and rolling.
And you roll up to the bake-off tent, and you think you're home, and you check the gate, and it doesn't squeak, not knowing that your mum has oiled the gate. Spoiler. 2 spoilers in this episode.
So then we roll.
Jerry O'Connell never got home.
And we roll. And we roll. And we roll. And we roll. Then we go to John, who's making chocolate orange bracelets and pumpkin maple logs.
Yeah, Bruno says bracelets.
Bracelets. I like it when Bruno pronounces things. It's great.
Yeah.
And
if you heard in the distance, there was just this high-pitched squealing and wailing and this thundering of feet as white women from all over Canada descended earlier than expected, going, I heard I can say it. I'm a white woman. I'm a basic white woman. No, I'm not basic.
You can.
Yeah.
So Zoya then starts singing about ghee and how wonderful ghee is, and all I can think of is, did Bruno hear that? Now, Zoya did win Star Baker, so I'm assuming.
But Girls' Generation did.
So I'm assuming that Bruno.
In the background, as the squealing women are coming in for their pumpkin spice, you hear this. Baby, and 100 Korean, Japanese dancers come. Girls' Generation is Japanese? Korean.
I think they're Korean. Actually, we got that wrong. Sorry, apologies.
I'm going in full white woman mode.
We're being British Bake Off. Sorry about that. So I really hope though that Bruno didn't hear how much Zoya loves ghee, because again, his butter fascination knows no bounds, and you don't want to promote a rival over the top of butter.
But it's just, ghee is just clarified butter. It's just butter that's not confused. It's been clarified. They've had the clarification needed.
But Bruno likes his butter down and dirty. Anyway. So Zoya was making saffron and almond squares and then cherry pine nut bracelets. Based on the Gardens of Paradise and the Quran. So you've got the flow, obviously, and everything is supposed to be symmetrical. It's supposed to be seen from all angles and the temple.
I will admit I am illiterate when it comes to the Quran. I know some things, but what I know could be said in a sentence. So, but you've taught it at school.
Yeah, but as I said, so look, again, I'm not going to consider myself any form of expert.
No, he's not.
It's very cool, and what she did was very awesome.
Excellent.
So Lauren,
I'm going to go look it up now.
So Lauren went with mocha walnut and pistachio blood orange. Now,
I like her to have gone for America walnut. Instead, it's just this giant walnut.
Mocha walnut, pistachio blood orange, Creole lady mama. So Lauren, they cut to Lauren after they go, everyone has made a log because they're easy to do. Except for Lauren, who is already cutting them and making them into weird flower shapes. Now, at this point, Alan goes up and says, you're looking forward to the semi-final, possibly. And then Lauren gives this very detailed, beautiful, earnest answer of, being with these amazing bakers for another day would be just such a blessing. Mm-hmm. And Alan looks at her and goes, that is so nice and so lovely. And Lauren looks around and goes, well, they can hear me, so I'm not going to turn around and then I'm going to take you down, I'm going to take you down, and get to you, and I get to you. I would much rather she said that too. Looking forward to the grand final? Yep. Going to kick She's ass. What's coming? That's what's coming. You know what? See these guns. This is a gun show.
And suddenly we get to the quarterfinal, and it suddenly goes WWE, and they all get intro things. They do some smack talk.
Well, at this point, John was the whitest hype man since John Cena. Woo, 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 raising the roof. He was very much like Vanilla Ice, John Cena, that sort of level white rapper. And this is when John then confirmed that it's a dozen of each they needed to make, because Lauren says that she's doing 25 of each. And John goes, what? And she goes, well, they're smaller. Well, they weren't. If you look, they were huge.
They were massive.
I think at this point, the only thing that might get in Lauren's way is that she has started to develop what I refer to as a touch of the Floras.
We're doing a little bit too much.
So, for those who are unaware, a couple of series ago on the Great British...
Probably 6?
We don't count them anymore. Yeah. A couple of series ago on the Great British Bake Off, Flora was, again, the youngest baker inside the tent.
Lovely
she was
Scottish lass.
Absolutely brilliant at what she baked. The problem was she kept doing more. So, she'd had to do a shoe tower at one point, and she baked a dozen macarons to go with as decoration.
I've just realised that's what a person with ADHD who's into baking looks like in Bake Off.
Yep. So my only problem is that Lauren going with all of those extras, I'm like, are you just
It's if she just whipped up an extra chocolate cake, as Laura was up to do.
Yeah. So hopefully in the semi-final she doesn't get into her own head and just start randomly baking all of the challenges as a garnish.
Look, it'll be interesting to see which way Lauren goes. Will it be the Flora route, or will it be the fucking Joe Hendry route? Will she just be making
things better?
Yeah,
motivating people,
but also throwing a bit of smack talk in there too.
That could be great. So it became syrup time, and as Kristie decided, of course, the syrup needed to be AHAP, as hot as possible.
I
want to see AHAP used more often.
Yeah.
I think that...
Do you think it's just our generation that just doesn't use AHAP? Maybe it's the
kids.
The kids. Find out which emoji means AHAP.
She was going for a margarita style AHAP, apparently. But I like the idea that, you know, you can shorthand everything and just start using AHAP, like randomly. Just sort of, you know, how do you want that toast in the morning? AHAP. You know, how do you take your coffee? AHAP. You know,
I'm just gonna order myself a vindaloo. How would you like it? Hot, spicy, or like
hot, medium, spicy. Yeah,
it's like AHAP.
Yeah, I'm on the dating apps. Like, oh, what am I? AHAP. So I like it. I like AHAP. I think AHAP needs to be in the vernacular. I think more people need to use AHAP.
Was AHAP also like an Egyptian pharaoh?
No, no. AHAP was the guy who was chasing after the white whale. Captain AHAP. That whale, AHAP.
I just feel like Captain AHAP now it's kind of like the modern version, and he's got like buns of steel and wears the tightest pants possible. Huge harpoon down the front.
AHAP the pharaoh is again like just buff. Just ripped. Pharaoh AHAP was very ripped. And again in Egypt, AHAP appropriate because it's as hot as possible. I'm going to stick with the baking because they did just there has been an announcement in the last 24 hours that as well they think they might have found the entry to Cleopatra's tomb. Looks like they might have found it. Funnily enough, under the Temple of Isis.
No, what do you mean?
It's almost like she modelled herself on Isis, and that's where they found it. I know, crazy. Isn't it?
I was thinking that she'd be under the.
But they now suspect that it's one of the
Geb.
It's the deepest series
the dude
of
with the big dick.
It's the deepest series of tunnels they've found under a standing building in Egypt. It's like some ridiculous like.
You know why they had to put her down there? Because she was AHAP.
Well, she's down there with Mark Antony too.
Oh, he's down there too.
Yeah, they're both. Well, if they find them, they're both down there. So that's what they're hoping for, because again, she was trying to live out the Osiris and myth, and so that's why they're both buried down there. Well, if they are there, that's where they think they are now. So,
if they're trying to live out that myth, he's going to be in pieces. He could be anywhere.
And the last fact on that was that they talked about.
Go find a hippo. And
the last fact on that was they talked about the idea that, you know, she did say that no man would ever find her, and the archaeologist in charge of the mission is a woman.
Yes.
So, at this point, the challenge finished. And Zoya was having the happiest mental breakdown.
And you know who was in charge of that? It was I've just forgotten it. Eowyn. Eowyn was in charge of it. She's like, I am no man.
And Eowyn was AHAP. So Zoya had the happiest mental breakdown that I've ever heard of in my life, where she was like, she wasn't crying. She was laughing and delirious and losing her words while she was trying to say, that's the thing I've been the happiest with since I've been in the pavilion. Well, she was saying 10. But, you know, and her mouth wouldn't form words.
I feel you, Zoya. That was beautiful. That brought me to little tears.
So the judging.
I got a little joy from that.
So the judging.
Yes.
Lauren. It was stunningly visually. Pistachio was a beautiful colour, great flavour. The coffee had good flavour if it was a little bitter, and Kyla suggested that it might have been hiding the fact that it was overbaked. Zoya, they said the shape and the height were spectacular. The cherry was baked beautifully. It was very tart. There was a really good balance of ghee. The almond saffron baked really well. The flavour was great, and Bruno just said flawless. Kristie's...
She baked up like this. Flawless.
Kristie's looked whimsical. Kyla used the ride height idea to mention the fact they weren't uniform. Good kick on...
Kristie's like, yeah, attention to fucking detail.
Exactly, kids. Good kick on the chili, but the phyllo was slightly burned on those ones. The raspberry and poppy seed had a great texture, and they were very well baked. John's, they said a very clean presentation. Great shine on those logs. The pumpkin spice had really good flavour at the top, but the bottoms were burned. Unfortunately, with the bracelets, they were well baked, but they were lacking the orange blossom flavour that didn't come through at all. Chi, they had a great presentation. The log was, I said, peanut sesame with salt, not what was advertised. Pleasant and great flavour. Kyla just wanted one extra texture layer to sort of add that bit of crunch. The shells were very well baked. Perfect inside, but slightly stretched on the outside. The ube was outstanding, though. And as Bruno said, if you did that on the first one, texture-wise, you would have had two perfect flavours.
Yeah, that ube was AHAP.
Now, the bird. It's birdwatch.
Yeah, haven't seen this one before. Greyish kind of head, really brown chest.
It was a browny orange chest, yeah.
brownie. Yeah, like, I haven't Googled it yet. Let's see if I can find it. But if you know what it is, and I'm not going to be able to find it before the end of this.
No, you're not.
No.
Let us know what the bird was.
Yeah, let us know what the bird was. I want to get to other news, okay? Are we kind of done here?
Well, I'm 2 seconds away from finishing up.
Okay, you finish up, and then we got other more pressing fun news.
Okay.
I mean, this is fun too. But...
Okay, so the judging table.
Yes.
Felt very, very weird. It felt to me like a week, and this is not a shot at anybody, where they didn't really have a star baker. They knew who was going home. They really didn't know who they were going to make star baker. And, it was just sort of the way they talked about who did what in what challenge felt a little confused. So, look, Cheese Showstopper was by far and away the gold standard. So if you are in a confused week, as we said, you're not quite sure where it goes, tiebreaker goes to the Showstopper. So in that regard, Zoya's Showstopper was far and away
the best.
So therefore, I can see exactly why Zoya won Star Baker, but I don't think there was much between most of them.
No.
Unfortunately, John didn't have a great one. No. And John knew it. And everyone sort of knew it. So Zoya is the Star Baker and John goes home.
Yes. Now, sorry, I was just getting so excited because there's a little something I want to share here, and it's not even my news. It's our Mel's news. Our Mel, the new mum.
Oh yes.
Mel and her lovely partner have just had a little boy.
Yes.
Yes. So if you look up Mel Buttle's TikToks and stuff, and her mum character.
Her mum character's fantastic.
Well, she's been fucking studying hard.
She's been working hard on the mum thing.
So
congratulations to our Mel.
So I feel like we should all grab ourselves just a hot chook and celebrate. Just get a hot chook, some rolls, nothing fancy, nothing simple. You have leftovers for days.
Hot chook, some rolls, and some salad.
Yeah, just put it all together and just have yourself a little fest.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Al Mel and Al Mel's partner and Al Mel's crotch goblin.
And what a phrase to finish on, crotch goblin. Mm-hmm. So next week is the semi-final. It's Fancy Desserts Week. Do I like the title of that? No. Do I like the look of what I saw? Yes. So I'm going to...
Who doesn't like the name Fancy Desserts? I'm here. If I'm sitting down at a restaurant, I hear fancy desserts being said. I'm like, I'm going to have some fancy desserts. I'm here for it.
It's vague. Qualify what a fancy dessert is. Anyway,
Viennetta. You're welcome.
What a low bar we're setting. So with that one, we'll leave it there for this week. We will be back possibly before next week. Who knows? By the way, thank you everybody who's listened to the Nigel interview. We really appreciate it. Nigel is so lovely. Please, if you haven't listened to it, go and listen to the Nigel interview.
And don't forget to like and share.
Yeah, like and share, guys.
Subscribe. Is that what they say?
Like, subscribe,
hit
share.
That bell button.
Yeah, like, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do to get the podcast out there and around there, because I hear from a lot of people about how much they enjoy it. Please tell the world. Until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
AHAP, bitches!